Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting Southern California Edison to address the committee here today. My name is Colin Cushney. I'm the Vice President of Energy Procurement and Management at Edison, responsible for all of our procuring all of our energy requirements and making sure those energy requirements are scheduled into the wholesale markets appropriately. Today I'm just going to touch on a few things. First, I'm going to want to talk about why ALISO is so important in supporting both the gas and electric systems. I want to talk about why gas is so important to the electric system, and then give you a brief overview of what Edison is doing to try to address the situation in light of Aliso Canyon. I want to start off, though, by underscoring, and this is something that Edison's been trying to do since day one, since we became aware of the leak at Aliso Canyon. Our primary concern is the safe and reliable operation of both the gas and electric systems. You heard earlier today there's some tremendous logistical challenges and safety issues associated with restoring the gas system if there's a failure there, and we don't take that lightly. But we're also concerned about the reliability of the electric system. If the lights go out, it can create a safety issue for customers, certainly creates economic hardship for many. When we looked at the Aliso Canyon Reliability Action Plan and the technical report that accompanied it, it indicated about 14 days of potential curtailments this summer, and this is an important thing, if Aliso Canyon is not utilized. That makes a lot of sense to Edison based on our understanding of how both the gas and power systems operate. But we would like to think that Aliso Canyon will be made available to operate to prevent power outages, and therefore the real issue will be the winter. If Aliso Canyon is not allowed to re-inject gas after the 15 BCF is depleted, no matter how you do the math, you're not going to have enough pipeline capacity and storage to meet the winter demand for gas. So really urge the committee and others responsible, and the gas company and Dogger, to do everything they can to safely and quickly restore some injection capability at the field. The nature of the problem is important to understand. In the summer, the problem is not that there's not enough pipeline capacity to serve the needs of Southern California. There is. There's more than enough pipeline capacity to serve the needs. The issue is accurately forecasting what the gas demand will be for the next day. So the way the pipeline systems operate, you have to buy your gas a day before you need it. Put it into the pipeline. It flows very slowly into California.
But just to get an understanding, the source of the gas, you can put lots into the pipeline, but where is it sourced? Where does it come from? We have in-state sources, fields, maybe?
The very little is actually sourced from within California.
Right, so it's coming from ships?
No, it's coming from Texas, Oklahoma, the Rocky Mountains, Canada. It's coming all over. There's a lot of interstate pipelines that bring the gas to California, and you have to order it a day in advance. And so, one thought might be, well, just buy more than you need. But if you put too much gas into the pipeline, you overpressurize the pipelines, and that's a separate safety issue. So you have to try to buy exactly the amount of gas that you need.
Do compressors help expedite the flow?
Compressors help regulate the flow of gas. The gas company could probably provide more background on it, but you're still limited by the physics of the system. You have to buy today what you need tomorrow. So our issue as an electric generator, among many electric generators in Southern California, is that 60% of the peak summer demand for gas comes from electric generation. So electric generation is 60% of the peak gas demand. And electric generators have to forecast a day in advance how hot it's going to be, when is it going to be hot, what's happening on the transmission grid. If you're a generator like Southern California Edison and you're connected to the California Independent System Operators system, we have to buy our gas before the CalISO is able to tell us how they want us to run our power plants. So we have to guess which of our power plants are going to be dispatched and for how long, and then calculate how much gas is associated with that and buy that. So what that has led to historically is forecast error as much as 50%. And if you think of electric generation as being 60% of the demand, and that some generators maybe have forecast error on a bad day as much as 50%, you quickly realize that the 5% threshold that the gas company has put forth, and which was supported in the Reliability Action Plan, is it's a very small margin. We can run through that margin very quickly. So That's where we stand. Edison is very encouraged by the legislature's recent approval of SB 380. We see that as the path forward for restoring Aliso Canyon to some degree. Edison is not advocating that the entire field necessarily be returned to service. Just make sure that whatever wells can be operated safely for both injection and withdrawal are returned to service as soon as possible. And it's perfectly fine to operate that field at lower operating pressures and lower working inventory levels. A few more things here I'd like to address, help understand why gas is so important to the electric grid. California, as you might be aware, has a preferred loading order. For electrical resources, we start with energy efficiency. We then go to demand response. We look at renewables. We look at something called combined heat and power. The CPUC recently asked us to include energy storage in that. We do all of these things to the greatest extent possible, and only after we've used all of that do we then use natural gas to be burned through power plants. Notwithstanding that, natural gas still accounts for 25 to 50% of our electric generation on any given day. And electric generation is the resource that provides most of the balancing services to the electric grid. So if you think about these other resources I talked about, the wind blows when the wind blows, the sun shines when the sun shines, the gas-fired electric generator is the resource that's moving up and down, keeping the electric system perfectly in balance. And the electric system has to stay perfectly in balance or it will fail. So any pipeline pressure restrictions that the gas company has to impose, which limits the amount of flexibility that gas-fired resources have, greatly impairs the reliability of the electric system. To the extent that there's unplanned outages on the gas company system, that further limits the ability to move gas seamlessly to electric generators. And as I mentioned, certain electric generators, like San Diego and Edison, have to forecast their gas demand without even knowing what their electric generation schedules are going to be for the following day. So it's a bigger problem to solve than people realize. It's not as simple as saying just order the right amount of gas. It's very difficult. So let's talk about what are we doing at Edison to try to address this situation. Ed Randolph at the CPUC mentioned that Edison has already been instructed to take several actions. One of which is we're trying to accelerate the delivery of some preferred resources that we contracted for several years ago to meet our local area reliability needs. These were resources that we had purchased to replace large gas-fired power plants that are expected to retire by the end of 2020. There's not a lot of megawatts that are available. We're looking at maybe 50 to 55 megawatts that we can bring online this year, earlier than anticipated. I'm going to put that in the context of what I believe to be a 2,000 to 3,000 megawatt shortfall on the electric system. So very, very small numbers compared to what the risk is. We're also looking to increase participation in our demand response energy efficiency programs. Today we have 1,100 megawatts of demand response. It's huge. It is. I'm not aware of anything that large elsewhere in the country. We believe we've largely saturated our customer base with demand response. Those customers who can respond are prepared to respond or signed up. Nonetheless, we are committing additional funds to try to identify additional load that can respond. We think we've identified another 25 megawatts. We're going to keep trying for more. The important thing to remember, however, is customers get fatigued when they get called on to drop their load. So they're okay to do it once in a while, but if you ask them, several days in a row, they don't like it when their air conditioner's turned off or they have to shut down their some of their industrial or commercial processes. We're also actively working with the CAISO to find resources that aren't in California, aren't connected to the SoCal system, that maybe can bring in electrical energy on very short notice. That'll probably be very expensive and be very limited in what we can do. To wrap up, there are a lot of things that we're going to try to do. They help, but they don't completely address the situation. What will be important is for the gas company and the CAISO to work very closely together, and for the gas company to communicate to the greatest extent possible to us as electric generators what is the operating condition of their system. Are they overpressurized, underpressurized? What are they looking at so that we can try to buy gas to complement what they're doing? And with that, I'll conclude my remarks.
Thank you. That was great. Mr. Webster, did you want to make some comments as well?
I would just like to say that the remarks I made in the earlier panel really summarize the actions LADWP is taking.
Okay. Senator Pavley?
I know it's the time constraint, so I'll just ask a few. First of all, I appreciate all the testimony and the encouraging comments on better coordination between all the players. That's sort of the role I hope to play in all this discussion, because it shouldn't be from lack of coordination that we're not able to address this challenge. Of course, the most risky thing we can do is risking another gas leak at Aliso Canyon, and then we would really have problems. So I do have a question for Roger of SoCal Gas. So we know the 114 wells have been going through the stage 1 and 2 tests. We think it's pretty close to the 114, or last week you said we were about 101. So also then a handful of them have already gone through perhaps the stage 3 through 6 testing. So waiting to see the report from the PUC to confirm and document all that. So appreciate everyone working hard to meet those objectives. I just wanted to confirm that SoCal Gas is convinced and is moving forward with just when the time comes, injection through the tubing of the well casing. And if you could also address at the same time, part of the ongoing concern, speaking on behalf of residents, was when the gas leak occurred back October 23rd, I think the field was operating at capacity at 86 billion cubic feet. That might have led to the pressure on the well casing that caused the leak. We'll find out soon what the exact circumstances were for the cause of the leak. But we do have a whole bunch of other wells that are in that same 60 to 80-year-old age thing. So if you could confirm the tubing and SoCal Gas's opinion on if you're given the go-ahead to refill part of the reservoir past the 15 billion cubic feet, which is the reserve for this summer and winter, what would be your estimate of what could possibly be a cautionary safety level of resumption?
So let me kind of address a couple of the questions. First, on the amount of gas that was actually in the ground back in October, it wasn't at full capacity. It was only at 77 BCF.
77.
So we were still
Close,
below,
but okay.
close.
But we've been talking about all this need for
Yeah.
5 or 6. So I wanted to put that in perspective on how much extra gas must have been in there that was being sold for.
So let me address the question on the tubing flow only. In that, Senator, you're aware, is using just the inner tubing and not using the casing. At Aliso Canyon.
At Aliso Canyon.
That will
yeah.
be the only way we will operate any wells at Aliso Canyon. And that is part of the dog order. It's actually, I think it's part of SB 380 as confirming that. And that will be the only way we operate it on a going forward basis once we start injection. The issue as to when we're available, it's a balancing issue between how many wells that you will have available and how does that impact the current deliverability or withdrawal capability of the field. Because when you go to a tubing flow scenario only, the capacity of each well will change and it will be reduced. So right now you have wells that you can operate. So we have to look at when do we fall off that withdrawal curve and come back onto the new scenario and how much available capacity will be usable once you do that.
So does, I'm not sure on this timeline here, but don't you have now, SoCal Gas now has authority to enforce tighter balancing of natural gas supply and demand as of this year that maybe wasn't assessed in the reliability report?
One of the reliability report of the action plan called for the tightenings of the balancing
Right,
rules. We filed that with the commission, the settlement with the other 22 parties on April 29th. We have not received a decision from the commission.
Okay, so
We're expecting that we will.
within the next few weeks or something like that?
I would
So
expect.
does that change the dynamic on the reliability, being able to tighten it 5%?
Having the ability to have daily balancing in the process that we reached in the settlement can assist. Will it solve the problem?
I'm
Probably.
just thinking of summer and
I think, and the reason we look forward, and the reason the action plan calls it out is it will help.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Schultz, I was just, since you're way down in San Diego area, and I apologize for not being that familiar with the territory. Are there any other options, either working with Arizona, or I was thinking the military bases, I don't know where they get all their supplier energy or LNG in Mexico, or Otay Mesa, who has the capability to move gas fairly quickly. I think it's compressed to Moreno Valley. I'm not sure if that's in your service entity or not, but are there some options? And I'm just picking on you because the military bases, I've worked a lot with the people at Pendleton and things like that, and I just wondered, in emergency situations, are those possibilities?
No, I wouldn't say that we could rely on the military
No.
bases, and we're also
Okay.
providing them, electricity
Okay,
as
so
well.
you're the
Yeah,
provider.
yeah. So,
All right, never
but,
mind.
but we are looking at all those options, as I stated in my comments, are there other options for gas supply for us? And that's what our team is currently evaluating, are there other ways that we could look at bringing gas into the southern system to call on should there be a need? So those are currently
Otay Mesa has gas that could be moved in.
that is something that we are exploring. I mean, we are, because of the fact that there are some affiliate concerns, I think that you are all aware, as we look and talk within our companies, we can't necessarily talk to each other because of the affiliate concerns, but we are looking and reaching out to parties that may have,
Okay,
a supply there that we could potentially
Thank you.
look as an option.
okay.
Okay, we'll move to public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to weigh in on this hearing, maybe offer some differing perspectives. So we will, as we call you, as you come forward, state your name and try to limit your comments to within a minute if you could. Yes. Will you need additional time?
Chairman, I'd really appreciate maybe 2 or 3.
Try to, I'll give you about 2 minutes, sir, if you can do that.
Thanks, Chairman. My name is Bill Powers. I'm an energy and environmental consultant from San Diego who did a contractor to Food and Water Watch, did a critique of this risk assessment and the action plan. And one thing, given the short time, I want to point out that 2 of these major shippers wrote a letter 2 weeks ago to the CEC saying, this risk assessment upon which this is based is obsolete. The rules that the 10 advocates for Aliso Canyon just indicated are a monthly balancing. It's gone. It's 5% daily balancing. And Shell and I think Shell is based in San Diego, and Alliance for Retail Energy Markets are the authors of this, and they indicate that this should be updated. You should be using current gas tightening rules to assess whether there are curtailments. Senator Pavley was correct that Otay Mesa has been used periodically since 2008 as a receipt point. It would completely address the southern issue with San Diego if it is utilized. And the risk assessment says that in the details, this is the hydraulic analysis.
What is the Otay Mesa reference? What facility?
The LNG terminal was built down in Ensenada.
Yeah. Okay, so it's the pipe that comes from Mexico.
Comes from there, but it also swings around from Arizona, and it is a big pipe. And it was intended to move that massive amount of gas out of Ensenada up through the system from the south. It's fully operational, and it's used periodically. So it's a go-to solution to.
So it can be used for storage because it's a large pipe. Is that what you're saying?
Not for storage. They can schedule shipments right through there today. I can call this morning and say, tonight or tomorrow, I want 200 million cubic feet coming through Otay Mesa. It is a fully operational receipt point.
Okay, all right, keep your comments.
So the risk assessment says if you're out of balance more than 5%, you could have curtailments this summer. But we're not going to be out of balance more than 5% because we're operating under new rules where it's 5% or less. So flipping that around, there is little or no danger of summer curtailments with this 5% balancing. 2, they talk about the winter scenario. Effective 5% daily balancing on winter scenario. Line pack is fully recovered across the entire system at the end of the operating day. What this is saying is that one action alone, 5% balancing daily, addresses these curtailment issues that are brought up in this risk assessment. Number one, you've got to do it again to reflect what these rules are today, not obsolete rules. And two, this is a roadmap for how to operate the system without ALISO reliably. Finally, final comment, SoCalGas stands to lose hundreds of millions of dollars if Aliso Canyon is shut down. So to have SoCalGas, and Chairman, I think you mentioned this, it's a little uncomfortable having the entity, one, that caused the problem, two, that has millions of dollars on the line, to be such a central part of the effort to pitch the need to keep it operational. Those are my comments.
Thank you.
Briefly, thank you, Mr. Chair, Senator Pavley. Doug Supers on behalf of the Western States Petroleum Association. 60% of transportation fuels in the state are refined in the LA Basin. The refineries rely on both natural gas and electricity to produce those transportation fuels, gasoline, diesel, jet fuel. We're looking forward to working with your committee. Appreciate the work you're doing here and the rest of the agencies. We just want to make sure that reliability issues, or whether or not they're real and apparent, reflect the potential impact that could be had on transportation fuels, and we look forward to working with everyone to mitigate
Okay.
that. Thank you.
No. Anyone else? And if you want to speak, could you form a line, please?
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I'm Vern Gehring on behalf of Food and Water Watch. I really appreciate the chairman calling this hearing and for the attention of the committee today on this important issue. Just a couple of brief comments I wanted to share with you. To date, it appears to us that all the state reports and analysis that have been done depend on information from SoCalGas with no public transparency. We really urge that all the modeling and data that's being used be made available to this committee and to the public for public review and analysis. With a long-standing business model and profits at risk, we think you and the public should be skeptical of sheltered information from Southern California. In physics, there's a principle that moving objects seek to continue the same motion. The same principle applies in human nature. It often takes significant inducements to generate changed thinking and changed directions. We think your hearing today has prompted creative problem solving, and we urge you to continue down this course. There are still thousands of residents displaced because of Aliso Canyon blowout, and the facility remains precarious. We are optimistic there are ways to operate the gas system in Southern California without Aliso Canyon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Tim O'Connor for Environmental Defense Fund. Thank you for holding this hearing today. And I wanted to reiterate some of the comments that were made earlier today by Senator Pavley and by yourself. And number one, say how much we appreciate the commitment of this body and of the agencies in California to not allow the facility to open up until it is absolutely made safe for the people of Porter Ranch, for the people of California, and for the energy system of California. And as we look to the reliability concerns that confront us this summer and next winter, also some of the comments have talked about the importance of looking at the situation about how we got here, how we became so reliant on one fuel source, on one system, on one company for providing the energy upon which our homes and our hospitals and our businesses rely. And as we look to the solutions for today and for this summer, we also, of course, need to look to long-term solutions. And as we evaluate how we got here, I think we also need to be looking at the basic market structures by which natural gas and clean energy compete against one another, and look at how we may be able to add more competition in the markets. So as we add competition on the basis of cost and carbon and reliability, I think we'll start to see other more preferred energy resources start to come to the mix. Appreciate the attention to this important issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for their participation. I think we chose this issue because we are concerned about any potential brownouts or blackouts or whatever you call them, outages of gas or energy in our state. And I think it's important to note that it affects both electricity as much as gas. And that is an issue of concern. So I appreciate everybody coming to the table, and I appreciate that everybody is at the table. I think it's our job as senators to make sure that this is made a priority in our state, and that we continue to work with everyone involved, everybody influenced in this to make sure that safety is made a concern, that the ratepayers are protected, and that our economy and our environment is protected all at once. So we're going to continue to work on this, and as more information comes out, we'll determine if additional legislative action is needed. But I do believe that we'll always try to provide this information to the public, ensure that there's sufficient transparency so that everybody has an ability to be active as stakeholders participating in this process and helping us to run the state accordingly. Thank you very much, everyone, and until our next hearing, thank you.